went to the range, test out the Prima XP a little bit more. As far as cases sticking, yeah, there was a few times they did stick, but they stick, but I can pogo it actually on my thigh quite easily as I'm sitting down and just you don't have to do an aggressive smash to get it to extract. So yeah, that's all right. I'll show you. So what happened was I had where is that now? I had this Crimson Trace red dot on it, and what happened was that, I don't know, a couple hours in, it wouldn't go on. It was off, and I thought, oh, the battery must be flat. So I changed the battery out, and it still wouldn't work. And I thought, oh no, this thing's died. And I've only had it for a few months, and it was like 3 times the price of my $80, $90 red dot, which is just dirt cheap and works fine on a 12 gauge. Yeah. It just so happens that what happened was that the battery that I replaced, the second battery, was dead too. So there you go, because I just put a new battery in, and it comes straight on. So there you go, and off. Yeah, so just quite simply, I had 2 dead batteries. I had one that was almost dead, and the other one, it had been sitting in another device for a long time, and that obviously died as well. So yeah, so I ended up, what happened was that I ended up shooting, I did some iron sight shooting, and I'll show you the different by different ammo, the results. So that was Federal Power Shock. I think it's 180 grain or something. Without the flyer, it would have been a 1.3 inch. So this is with a red dot at 100 meters. So you know, and red dots aren't the best thing to use. With the fly, it was like 3 inches. So yeah. Then hand loads. So they're 150 grain spear hot cores with 44 grains of AR2208. That hand load, use something as a background. That hand load, that was 1.1 inches, and right on the money. What can you say about that? That was, yeah, that's good. 100 meters, 1.1 with a red dot. That one, 1.4. That one without, so these are 4-shot groups because it's a 4-shot magazine. Without the fly, it was 1.5 inches. With the flyer, it was 3.4. It would chuck a flyer every now and then, which was, yeah, it is what it is. Now you can see, without the flyer, it was 1 inch, and with the flyer, it was 2.7. It does these flyers, why, I don't know. And that one was off the page. And this one, I think I was sighting it in. So yeah, some of those I was sighting it in. I didn't have much ADI ammo left, the OSA ammo, Australian, Aussie, Buffalo River or whatever it is. That group was, oh sorry, these ones here are with the iron sights. So that was, yeah, so they are pretty good with iron sights. Yeah, the glow and the glow shot ones are with the iron sights. The ADI, again, that was with the red dot at 100 meters, 1.7. If I can get 2 inches with a red dot at 100 meters, I'm happy. That one was 1.7. That was from when I was centering it. That one was 1.5. So you'll notice that they're sort of not in the same area. That's because I was slowly getting it. I was doing groups and I'm slowly getting it, you know, centered over a period of time. Now, PPU, which was a surprise. I've always considered PPU to be poo-poo, but this one was 1.4 without the flyer. It had a big flyer. I'm not sure why that is. It does these 4th round flyers. Yeah. And that, so this one is with iron sights, and that's 1.9 at 50 meters. Because, and mind you, most of those groups with iron sights were without the front, without that front optic fibre on the front sight. It fell out at some stage, and I couldn't find it, and so it was a bit tricky without that front optic fibre. It really is. It's a bit weird just having a hole, a tiny hole. I was still able to line it up and do decent shooting. I have to say, from the factory, the rear sight is lined up perfectly. You can only adjust the front sight up and down, the front sight up and down, the rear sight side to side. Very much like military firearms, or most military firearms anyway. Yeah, so I have to say that the only thing I have to say about this rear sight is that, yeah, man, if you dropped it, it'd just snap off, I reckon. It really needs some protection, in my opinion. Like, it really does. You can see that, you know, that, man, that's just gonna, you drop this thing and on a rock or something, it'd probably bust off. It is alloy. All the sight bits are alloy. That's good, but yeah, not very well protected. So I've decided I'm going to keep it because I really do like it. You know, after all the dramas with the screws on the pick rail busting and all that, all the screws have been replaced. Haven't had a problem with it since. Still, cases still stick a bit. That may take some time to lessen or disappear, whatever. But as the throat and the chamber wears in, I think, you know, hopefully. But these things are pretty easy to disassemble. They're essentially just like disassembling a Turkish shotgun. In fact, exactly the same. Because it's what they've essentially done is just taken their shotgun designs and made a centerfire rifle. So these things do come in semi-auto, pump action, and what's the other one? Straight pull. Yeah. Pardon me, morning coffee. So what I said that I wanted to do was to try and work on the trigger, because it is shit. Whether I'm going to have any success or not, I don't know. The reason why I have some doubts is that whole trigger assembly is also part of the firing mechanism. So you've got a fire. I think you've got a hammer in there and everything. So yeah, that may be a bit tricky, but I'll see how I'll go. So what I might do is just stop the video here and then have a go at, I don't really want to disassemble it on video because, I don't know, YouTube are a bit sensitive about doing how-to videos these days, even though they haven't struck any of mine or taken mine any of mine down where I've done work on triggers and so forth. They've left me alone. I'm not sure why. Maybe somewhere down the track they'll catch up with me and go, hey, this is a video about how to do something. You're not allowed to do that, you know, which is really stupid. But so I'm gonna see if I can do something with the trigger. So I'll see you in a little while, and I'll report. Okay, so I'm back now. I put the trigger pack back in before I started recording, but I did have the trigger pack out. It's very easy to disassemble this firearm. It's very easy to work on. So I was able to lighten the trigger. It's got quite a large spring that acts on the hammer, so it does have a hammer. It's just got a sear and a hammer, and you squeeze the trigger and it lets go of the hammer, which is under spring tension. It's a coil spring. So I did replace it with that, which is out of the Chinese guitar. Good for Chinese guitars. I've always got bizarre parts that I need that I can't get from anywhere else. The only problem is this lightened it to it's about 4.5 pounds, about 4 pounds 8 ounces, and this reduced it to about 1 pound 10 ounces. The only problem is that single spring is it does everything, and it has the hammer under tension, and then when you release that hammer, it's only it's quite a light affair. It doesn't have a lot of mass, so that when you release it, that's what hits the striker and hits the firing pin and ignites your primer. Now, the issue, when I was trying it out, I realised I don't think that's going to have enough force to possibly it might have enough force to ignite the primer, but I'm not going to play around with that. 4.5 pounds is fine. The issue that I had with it was that it was quite gritty. So there we go, it's cocked, and now it's not gritty. I did actually, the two surfaces, the two making surfaces from the hammer and the sear, I worked on with just sandpaper, really fine sandpaper, to try and work out any rough marks, and now it's much smoother, I have to say. A lot smoother. Like it's actually not too bad now. That's actually quite nice. It's still a bit spongy, like a typical cheap pump action semi-auto straight pull turkey shotgun, but it's quite nice. It's actually not too bad. I actually don't mind that now, because a lot of the time the parts will not be like honed. So I've just essentially honed those parts. It's really easy to disassemble, and there's not a whole lot happening. The actuating bars are there. Do they come off? I don't know. It's got two actuating bars. It's symmetrical, which is nice. I like it. I think it's a really neat design. I don't know who designed it, but yeah, he did a great job. So I'm just essentially just going to oil everything up and then reassemble it, and then we'll be right to go. And I'll put that red dot back on, and I'll take to the range. Hopefully I'll get a call from the gunsmith with regard to my CZ457. Now so I went in, I'll tell you what happened. I went in there and I said, right, because I'd explained to him on the phone what was going on, and he said, oh yeah, rightio, no worries, we'll bring it in. And I said, okay, what's going on there? I'm letting that go on. It's out of work. And plastic parts don't fit perfectly because it's plastic. And I can put that straight back on. So this is just like their shotguns. It's got this one knob at the end that holds the pump mechanism on, or the pump handle really. It's not much of a mechanism. So yeah. snug so it doesn't. And then so I'm doing a bit of an assembly video, not this assembly. So here is, this slides over the top, those over the top, and there's those holes, there they are, they line up. Just give them a bit of a spray, don't get rusty in there. 2 screws. Come on. Get on there. Just want to start. Better. 2 screws. And they are, I can't remember what they are. Okay. 2 screws. Down snug. Don't overdo it, otherwise they're not torque screws, they're hex head screws, trumpet head. And with hex head screws, especially the small stuff, oh yeah, that's much nicer. Yeah, you will round the hole, the hex, and then yeah, you're gonna have problems. So what I'll do is I'll put that red dot back on it, because that's pretty much what I'll be using on it. I mean, you know, it's not a long distance rifle by any stretch of the imagination. It's a short distance weapon for shooting pigs, you know, close in. Some more coffee. So as I said, I was able to reduce the weight of the trigger, but the problem is that there's one spring that does everything. So it's you need that oomph to hit that striker, and if I'd left this pissy spring in there, I don't think it would have had enough guts, enough moxie to hit the striker hard enough. I really don't. And 4.5 pounds for a hunting rifle, hey, I'll take that all day long. What can I say? Oh yeah, I'll tell you what happened with the old CZ457. So I took it in and I'd explained to John, the gunsmith, what was going on. He said, oh yeah, all right. On the phone he said, yeah, all right, so your headspace is stuffed. I said, well yeah, especially for Ely ammo. I mean, it just, you know, light primer strikes, and I could hear that the spring wasn't hitting the primers hard enough, or the pin wasn't hitting the primers hard enough. He said, yeah, no worries, all right. So I've taken it in there. So I also had my 17 HMR bolt, which is actually here. Now, they're totally interchangeable, okay? We're talking, yes, they're mass produced, but we're talking about high precision mass production, okay? So every CZ457 bolt is interchangeable. I don't care what anybody says, and I don't care what he says. And he said, because I said, here you go, there's 2 bolts. There's one where I've reprofiled the firing pin. He said, oh, why'd you do that? And I said, well, because the 455 and 457 strikers are dual purpose, and I'm only going to be using 22 long rifle in it. And he said, oh no, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 went on a rant, and I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then he said, why have you got 2 bolts? And I said, because that's out of my 17 HMR. He said, oh, you shouldn't mix up bolts, you shouldn't swap bolts, blah, blah. Went on another rant. And I said, why? They're exactly the same. He said, no, they do hand fitting at the end. And I was like, what, is this guy stuck in like the 19th century? No, they don't. No, they're all interchangeable. So I know, I seriously doubt that he watches my channel. I don't think he watches YouTube at all. So if he finds out about what I've just said and he takes offence, yeah, so be it. But yeah. Like, I didn't stand there and argue with him or because at the end of the day, you know what? He's a gunsmith with decades of experience and I'm not. But for him to tell me that you can't swap CZ457 bolts, that, you know, they're all hand fitted to individual actions, is bullshit. I'm sorry, John, you're wrong. I don't know where he gets that from. I don't think he knows much about CZ457s, to be honest, because the reason why I say that is because they're so reliable. I don't think he's ever worked on them. You know what I mean? You only ever work on a gun that needs fixing, and the CZs, regardless of what model you're talking about, the CZs are so reliable and so good that most of the gunsmiths never get to work on them, like repairs of any type. The 455 and the 457, and they haven't been around for that long anyway. So I don't think he knows much about them. But yeah, that's my opinion. People are going to say, "What would you know? You're not a gunsmith." He is. Yeah, that's true. But I can tell you right now, from experience, okay. So I currently own 2 CZ457. And I've owned another one before that. So at one time, pretty much for the last few years, I've owned 2 CZs and I've swapped those 457s and I've swapped those bolts around. The CZ455, the CZ455, I didn't own 2 of those, but no doubt those bolts would have been swappable as well. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, off my chest, because it was really bugging me what he tried to tell me, because whatever. So I won't go to the range until I get that back, so that I can, and I'll be interested to see if I get a phone call from him to say anything, that he's going to say anything about. Because I said to him, look, I measured 0.05 of a millimetre difference between those 2 barrels, the end of the barrels, the bit that goes into the action. And I said, I didn't think that was enough to affect, cause like prime strike. And his comment was, well, it wouldn't be. And I said, well, something's going on, because, with the stock standard barrel in it, not a problem. With that IBI barrel, problem. And that spigot is shorter. I said, so there's nothing else going on. It's this barrel that where it's happening. So something has reduced my headspace, or lengthened my headspace. So I've got too much headspace. I mean, you said it yourself. And so I'll be interested. It's going to be interesting to see what he comes out with, what he comes up with. I don't know what he's going to say. But until then, so at the end of the day, I'm keeping this. I like it. I have done a bit of work to the trigger. It's a lot better. It's not lighter, but it's not that heavy anyway. I'm going to put the red dot on it and then take it to the range. And as soon as I've got that CZ457 back, I'll reassemble that and have a go with that as well. So until then, see you later.